What's going on, guys? So today we're going to be changing a wheel stud on my 350Z, so let's get to it. So just like everything else on this car, everything was done a little bit janky. I think they cross-threaded one of the lug nuts when they were putting the tires back on this car at some point. So when I took them off, the threads were stripped. Luckily it was only one bolt. We might change maybe two more depending on what they look like. The first thing I did was jack up the car. Now we're going to take the wheel off and then I'll show you the next step. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is take this brake caliper off. It's two 22mm bolts. A good thing to have is a small breaker bar and a rubber mallet, and then you just smack the breaker bar with the mallet. Make sure the socket stays on really well though, that way you don't strip any bolts. As Calvin would call it from TJ Hunt's channel, a little gentle persuasion. Once I got it loosened, I switch over to the ratchet just to make it quicker. It's pretty easy to tell which bolts you need to take off. It's the only ones that are holding this caliper onto the caliper bracket. I'm going to use this jack stand to support the caliper so it's not just hanging there. You don't want it just hanging because then you might break the line and you don't want that. So I'm having a little bit of trouble getting this brake off, so I'm going to take out the pads. Hopefully it should come off right after that. On these Brembo brakes, the pads come out the back. When taking off these Brembo brakes, be careful because there's a little spring that holds these brakes in place. And I'll do a whole video on the brakes at some point, but there's these pins that hold the spring in place. And if you're not holding on to it, it'll shoot off. Oh, it looks like this brake line is bolted in right to the shock, so I'm going to unbolt that way I can move it out of the way. So like I said, I'll do a whole separate video on the brakes at some point because these brakes need to be changed pretty badly, but now we're just focusing on the wheel stud. But all you really need to know for now, most likely you'll probably have regular brakes, but if you have the Brembos, don't forget to disconnect this line right on the control arm. Actually, it's not on the shock. Alright, so now you'll remove the rotor, and there you got your wheel studs. It's pretty simple. You'll just rotate it to this side right here, and whichever one's stripped, I'll show you the stripped one. Alright, so here's the stripped stud. As you can see, like the whole ends of the threads are missing, and you can't thread anything onto it. So we're going to take a hammer, smash this guy out. See how it has a little indent right here? That'll make it easier to get this out. So we're going to just take a hammer and smack this, and it should come right out. Alright, so make sure you have a metal hammer when doing this. You don't want to use a rubber mallet, that'll just dampen the force. So we're going to take it and just hit it as dead on as we can. Should only take a few hits, and then we'll get the new one in. Alright guys, so there you have it. Here's the strip screw. Only took 3 hits and it's out. It's pretty easy. So let's get the new one and I'll show you how to put it back in. Alright guys, so I have the new wheel stud here. All nice and shiny, has all its threads. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it back through the hole. And I have this old lug nut that I have left over. I replaced the lug nuts also since these things were stripped and these were all different on this car. So I'm going to take a couple spacers, put them on the end of this, and then I'm going to put the lug nut on it. Try to line it up as straight as possible. Alright, you can do this part by hand, but it would be really difficult and you'd have to find a way to keep the hub from moving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my impact gun and I'm going to impact this bolt back through. Alright, my impact is a little broken and it doesn't go in reverse. So then we just untighten this. Alright, so I guess I get to show you guys how to keep this from moving anyways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another lug nut in. I'm going to use my breaker bar. I'm going to tighten it as much as possible. I'm going to use my long breaker bar and put it on the bolt. Then there we go. Bolt's back off. New threads are in. So it's not seated all the way, so I'm going to hit it one more time with the impact. Alright, now we got it in all the way. So we're going to take this other one off. Alright, as you can see, got brand new threads, and we can start putting the brakes back together again. Alright, so now we're just going to put the brakes back together and we're good to go. Alright guys, I ran into another strip bolt. This time it's for the caliper. It's the part that holds the caliper onto the spindle. So I'm going to have to order another one of these bolts. Luckily I had a tap to clear the brake threads out because those were a little messed up also, but now they're totally fine. If you ever encounter some strip threads, you'll want to get a tap to just clear those threads out if they're not too bad. If they are too bad, there's always the option of going with a Healy coil kit. Hopefully I never have to show you guys that one, but maybe someday I will. So I'm gonna order this bolt, but I can put everything else back together and put the wheel back on, get the Z back into place. So we're gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'll get back to you guys. Alright guys, so that's how you replace a wheel stud. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. If you liked the video, like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good one.